Hello, this is Mike Burnette from the Global Supply Chain Institute, and I'm here today to talk about a new applied research project we have on end-to-end supply chain strategy. This project deals with synchronizing your supply system. As you know, in the Global Supply Chain Institute, we network with hundreds of companies every year. This includes our supply chain forum sponsors, local companies, and global enterprises. This allows us to expose ourselves to a variety of diverse supply systems and determine those benchmark supply chains. These benchmark supply chains we interview through the applied research process and try to determine the best practices associated with the current challenges and opportunities that we have in our supply chains today. In April, we'll have published our 22nd project on these best practices, and this one on synchronization is sponsored by MainPoint, a global consulting company. In your first slide here, you'll see a copy of our supply chain improvement triangle. This triangle was deduced from this interface with these hundreds of companies. We know that the top benchmark supply chains currently are focusing primarily on the 6 end-to-end strategies that are in the spleens of the triangle. As you can see from this, we have written papers on most of these strategies. But today we're going to focus on this, what you would arguably say is the most complicated and sophisticated strategy of them all, synchronization. Now, what is synchronization? On the chart, you'll see a definition of synchronization. It is the strategic work conducted to bridge the gap between the supply chain operations, multifunctional business processes, and our people systems or culture, with the core business driver. This core business driver is determined by that key attribute that delivers the highest total value to the organization. When the physical supply chain, the business processes, and the culture are fully integrated and synchronized with the core business driver, total value can be fully optimized. As you can see in this definition, there are 2 key parts. Let's look at step 1. Step 1 is to determine the core business driver. You can see here on the visual, we have a table of potential core business drivers. When we talk to supply chain professionals, you'll hear a lot of measures that are important to the business, and they are important to the business. When we try to focus that on the core business driver, it's a much more difficult question. In fact, most of the supply chains that we interface use monthly shipments for that core business driver. And this is the first assessment and analysis you need to complete. Because from my point of view, the monthly shipments could be the core business driver, but frequently is not. Now let me give you an example. You can see on the 4th line here in businesses that are dealing with commodity prices, and those commodities determine the biggest value opportunity for those businesses. So if you're in the coffee business, the metals business, or other commodity-driven businesses, you need to synchronize your supply system to the opportunities you have to drive the lowest commodity prices and create the most value for your enterprise. The second piece of this is to drive all the time, waste, and variation out of the physical supply chain, the people systems, and the business processes. As you can see, we have our 3P chart, which is in the white paper, that describes in detail what some of these types of key points are relative to this and how you can start focusing on driving that waste out of your system. The list of benchmark practices that we deduced from the applied research interviews is now on the video. You can see we found 8 key best practices, and these include thoughts on leadership's role, how to apply digital tools to synchronization, and the importance of supply chain agility and building that agility and responsiveness to being able to deliver the core business driver. Supply chain synchronization is a sophisticated end-to-end supply chain strategy. Hopefully this top-line review has piqued your interest. If you built supply chain capability in collaboration, dependability, integration, and your culture, you may be ready to implement this strategy. If you've not built these capabilities, not all is lost. There are plenty of great ideas in this paper, tools, best practices, and concepts that you can apply to your system to help prepare you for these high-end benchmark strategies.